I moved into this apartment in late October. It wasn't anything fancy, just a small 2-bedroom unit on the second floor of an old brick building, tucked between a laundromat and a closed-down convenience store. The kind of place you rent when you're trying to save money but still want something decent. The neighborhood was quiet. Too quiet sometimes. Most of the people that lived here were older couples, college students, or people who just kept to themselves. Nobody really talked much. You probably see them on the hallway, nod, maybe say what's up, and just keep it pushing. The landlord, Mr. Carter, was a heavy-set man in his late 50s. Always wore the same brown jacket and smelled like nothing but cigarettes. He wasn't rude necessarily, but he wasn't friendly either. Just the kind of guy who wanted his rent on time and no problems. When I first toured the apartment, I noticed something strange. The floor above mine was empty. I asked Mr. Carter about it casually. He shrugged and said, well, yeah, that unit's been vacant for a while. He didn't explain much further, and I didn't push it. So I just left it at that. About 2 weeks after moving in, I was asleep when I heard something. A loud thump. It sounded like somebody walking heavily across the floor above me. I rolled over in bed and checked the time. 2:17 a.m. Oh my fucking God, I said. I stared at the ceiling, listening. The footsteps continued, just heavy as hell. Non-stop. And then came another sound. Something being dragged. It wasn't loud enough to sound like construction, but it wasn't subtle either. It sounded like furniture being pushed across the floor or some shit. I sat in my bed, pissed off as hell. Nobody's even supposed to be living up there, dog, I said. Maybe the landlord had workers renovating the unit. That was the only thing that made sense. But even that right there didn't make a whole lot of sense. Who renovates an apartment at 2 a.m.? I thought to myself. The noise went on for almost an hour. By the time it finally stopped, I was wide the fuck awake. The next night, I was just on my couch watching TV, just chilling. The kind where the narrator's voice is calm and eerie, talking about missing persons cases and unsolved murders. I remember the scene vividly. The documentary was describing a case where a man disappeared in his own apartment building and nobody noticed it for weeks. Right as the narrator said, sometimes the danger is closer than you think, I heard some bullshit upstairs yet again. I muted the TV instantly. Then came more footsteps. Fast as fuck this time, like somebody just pacing back and forth, and then something fell. A loud crash. I just felt a huge wave of irritation before fear. I was tired, I had work in the morning, and whoever was up there had zero fucking respect. I stood up, walked to the middle of my living room, and I stared at the ceiling once again. Are you serious right now? I muttered. The noise continued for about another 20 minutes before it finally stopped. Silence. Finally. I was really starting to get pissed the fuck off. The next morning, I ran into my neighbor, a guy named Daniel, in the hallway. He lived across from me, mid-30s, always wore headphones, quiet dude. So I decided to ask him. Yo, Dan, I said casually. Hey, yo, you hear all that noise upstairs last night? He paused and slowly took off his headphones. What noise? He said. The stomping, the banging, it sounded like somebody moving stuff around, I said. Daniel stared at me for a few seconds. Not confused, more like unsettled. There's nobody up there. What are you talking about? He said. I laughed very lightly. Yeah, I know, but like maybe workers or something, I said. He shook his head. No, that unit's been empty for months, my dude. There's nobody up there, he said. Something about his tone made my stomach drop. I pressed him a little further. Are you sure? Cause I know I'm not tweaking, dog. He nodded slowly. Yeah, 100%. And then he walked away. But I knew it was something more than just somebody not living up there. There had to be something more to this. So I decided to investigate even further. I went to the landlord. I decided to text Mr. Carter. Hey, quick question. Are you having workers doing anything in the upstairs unit at night? He took a few minutes to respond and then... No. Just a one-word response. Just a no. I keep hearing loud footsteps and stuff moving up there. I waited for about 2 minutes before another message popped up. That's strange. I'll check it out. he said. I didn't reply. I didn't feel all that relieved either. The next night, I went to bed earlier than usual. I told myself maybe I'm just overthinking everything. Maybe this will all just calm down first thing in the morning. But it didn't. I started hearing more noises upstairs. I just stared at my ceiling. My jaw clenched. The landlord wasn't going to do shit about it. I already knew that. I got out of bed and walked upstairs. The stairwell felt colder than usual. The light started flickering slightly as I climbed each step, my footsteps echoing the empty hallway. I had this weird feeling in my chest, like I wasn't supposed to be up there. The upstairs floor smelled different. Old dust, stale air, something faintly metallic. I walked down the hallway until I reached the apartment where the noise always came from. Apartment 3B. The door was closed. Locked. I stood there for a few seconds, debating whether I should knock or not. And then I did. Nothing. So I waited. But then I heard something. Footsteps. Right behind the door. My heart started to pound. I was getting nervous as fuck. It sounded like whoever was inside walked up to the door. So I leaned in closer. I heard the faintest sound. Like a hand brushing against the door handle. Like they were about to open it. But they didn't. Instead, the footsteps walked away. Deeper into the apartment. I felt a chill crawl up my spine. I knocked again. Harder. Hey! I said, louder than I expected. I know someone's in there. No footsteps, no movement. It was like the person inside just vanished. I stood there for a full minute, waiting, but nothing happened. And finally, I turned around and walked back downstairs. And that night, there were no more noises. The next morning, I went straight to Mr. Carter. He was in his office behind the building, sipping coffee like nothing happened. Hey, you ever checked the upstairs apartment like I asked? I said. He looked up at me slowly. Yeah, he replied. And? I said. There's nothing up there, he said. I stared at him. You're lying, I said. His expression tightened. I'm not, he said firmly. My nigga, I went up there last night. What the hell are you talking about? I heard somebody inside. Somebody was moving shit, I said. That room is vacant. Nobody lives there, he said. Okay, then explain the footsteps, I snapped. His voice hardened. Well, old buildings make noises. What do you want me to say? We just stared at each other in silence. For a second, I thought he was going to say something else, something honest, but he didn't. So I walked out. And at that moment, I knew something was being hidden from me. So that afternoon, I started to dig a little bit. I searched the apartment address online. At first, nothing came up, but then I found a small local news article from a few weeks back. Local woman reported missing in apartment complex. I clicked it. The article said a woman in her late 20s had disappeared from the same building. Her last known location? Apartment 3B. The police searched the unit, but they found no signs of forced entry. No evidence, no suspect. The case went cold. My stomach dropped. So why was I hearing footsteps in a supposedly empty apartment? And if the woman disappeared from that unit, then who the hell was inside it now? I thought to myself. So later that night, I didn't sleep. This time I had a plan. I sat on my couch with the lights off just waiting. Until around 2 o'clock a.m. I heard it again. This time I didn't hesitate. I walked into my bedroom and I grabbed the baseball bat from my closet. My hands were shaking, but I didn't give a fuck. The hallway was empty. I looked up at the stairwell and started walking upstairs. My hand tightened around the baseball bat as I reached the door of apartment 3B again. So I slowly turned the doorknob. To my surprise, it wasn't locked. The door creaked open. The first thing I noticed inside the apartment was the smell. It wasn't strong enough to make me gag, but it wasn't normal either. It smelled old and stale. The apartment was dark, except for the faint glow of a streetlight coming from the blinds. And as I walked further inside, I started noticing things that did not make sense. The floor had scuff marks, not random ones. They looked like heavy objects had been dragged across the wood. There were faint stains on the wall near the hallway, but they didn't fully disappear. My heart started racing. I walked into the bedroom, and then that's when I saw it. Inside of the bedroom, there was a mattress on the floor. Someone had been living here. I slowly walked forward with my bat in hand raised. My footsteps echoed across the hardwood floor, and then I saw it. Dark stains on the carpet, not fresh, old, faded, like someone had tried to clean them but failed. The closet door was slightly open, and taped to the wall above the closet was a piece of paper. My hands felt numb as I read it. It was written in shaky handwriting. He said nobody would hear me. I felt a chill run through my entire body, and then that's when I realized something. The apartment was too damn quiet. So that's when I turned around and something slammed into my back. I stumbled forward, nearly dropping the bat. I spun around and I saw him, a man, tall, wearing dark clothes, his face covered with a mask. He lunged at me. I swung the bat. The bat was shaking between us. He was stronger than I expected. I shoved him back with all my strength. He stumbled. That was my chance. I swung again. This time the bat connected. He let out a muffled grunt. I swung again at his ass. And again, and again, and again, and again. For a second, I thought this shit was over. And then he kicked forward, hard, right into my stomach, gasping. But by the time I looked up again, he was already running his ass out the apartment. He bolted past me, out the apartment, down the hallway, gone. And then that's when I called the police. My hands were shaking like a motherfucker when I called 911. Within minutes, police cars were surrounding the building. They searched the apartment, and what they found was worse than they imagined. Hidden behind the closet wall was evidence that the woman had been killed there. Traces of blood, personal belongings, signs of a struggle. It wasn't just some vacant apartment anymore. It was a crime scene, and it had been one the whole time. The police questioned the landlord. At first, he denied everything, but eventually, he cracked. He actually admitted that he knew somebody that had been staying in the apartment. He said the man offered him money to stay quiet, but he didn't ask questions. He didn't want any trouble. The police tracked the masked man 2 days later. He was arrested, and so was the landlord. 3 days later, I got a call from a detective. He asked if I can come outside for just a few minutes. I didn't want to, but I did. Well, and once I got out, there were police cars outside. More than before. I saw officers walking in and out of the basement, and that's when the detective told me something that made my stomach drop. They had searched the building's storage units. At first, they were just looking for more evidence, but in one of the locked units, they found something else. Wrapped in heavy-duty black bags, inside was the missing woman. She had been there the entire time, right beneath us. I think what messed me up the most wasn't just where they found her body. It was the timeline. The detective told me the estimated time of her death. It was weeks before I moved into the apartment, which meant when I first signed that lease, she was already gone. And the man who killed her was already inside the building, living upstairs, walking the hallways and such. I moved out 2 days later. I just couldn't stand to live there anymore. I didn't look back, nothing. But even now to this day, I still think about something. The man that had been living above me for weeks, maybe months. And if I had gone upstairs that night, I don't know how long he would have stayed or what he might have done next.